Thank you, everyone, and welcome all the participants to our webinar. And also, huge thanks to our panelists, Gunnar and Vishnu from MuleSoft for agreeing to join. It's very early for them. It's 6:30 a.m. So thank you, Vishnu and Gunnar, and thanks Sapna, Savannah, and Varsha for putting this together. So I'll go and introduce myself. My name is Vijay. I'm the founder here at Apicero, and I am a Mule certified architect as well. So I have a fair bit of technical background. Very happy to welcome you all to this webinar. So the purpose of today's webinar is to expose all of you to MuleSoft. The what we believe is a very robust technology that many enterprises across the world are live on MuleSoft, getting a lot of business value out of it. So we would want to share some of our excitement around the technology, and also, Apicero is the leading partner. I'm very consciously choosing the word the leading partner, not one of the leading partners. We are number one when we within the MuleSoft arena. So we'd also want to touch a little bit upon Apicero, how we kind of partner with MuleSoft to take their vision forward, and how we could be a good potential fit for some of you who are considering a career in MuleSoft, and hopefully we can get you more excited today about the technology. So next slide, Varsha. Okay, so that was my welcome. So welcome each one of you. I know there's a lot of people from around the globe who join at various time zones. So really a huge thank you for taking, spending a part of your day with us. Okay, the agenda, so Varsha, if you want to go back to the previous slide. The agenda, so there was a welcome address from me. I hope I did a good job of welcoming you all. Then we'll turn it over to Guna and Vishnu, who are from MuleSoft, who will talk about the technology, high level overview. And Vishnu will touch upon the products and life cycle, various deployment architectures, and we have a few prizes and a few quizzes, so please pay attention. And Sapna will talk about how Apicero can help start and accelerate a career in this exciting field. Yeah, so that is the agenda for today. Okay, so yeah, so just before I turn it over to Guna and Vishnu, just a brief overview about Apicero. We are, like I said, the leading partner for MuleSoft. We are backed by Salesforce Ventures. So, Salesforce, has invested in us, and they partly own Apicero. And we are close to 1,000 employees now worldwide. We have a huge presence here in the US. We have a very large presence in India, and we have smaller offices in Canada, Mexico, Australia, and the UK. So pretty global presence. We grew very rapidly. We started around 2015, so we grew to around 1,000 employees in 5 years. And we continue to accelerate at a very fast pace. So we are hoping to close the year at around 2,000 employees, so double our size. So a rapidly growing company. We have 650 plus MuleSoft certified, developers and architects. A very large bench, very comparable to some of the bigger SIs. We won Partner of the Year award for MuleSoft 2 years in a row. a lot of, this year we won awards in multiple categories. So, a very exciting company to work for. Pretty flat structure. I talk to most of my employees on a regular basis. You really can accelerate your career. A very, pleasant change from the indifferent attitude of some of the bigger SIs that we see, right? So we have a lot of people from large SIs join us, and they instantly feel the difference. Yeah. So, okay. So I think I'll turn it over to Guna.
You bet. Okay, let me share my screen. Let's see how we're doing here. Oops. Do this, share screen. All right. Can you see my screen okay?
Yep, all good from my side, Gunnar.
Yeah.
All right. Well, first and foremost, Vijay, thank you so much for inviting Vishnu and myself to attend and participate in this webcast. We love doing this with our partners, and Apicero, as Vijay mentioned, is one of our prime partners. And we're going to be talking about technology here today, but think about what we're doing. And our clients are asking us not only to address some of their challenges with technology, but also kind of change the philosophy. We're going to be talking about integration, which to many people on the call might be the first time you've ever heard about integration. But Vishnu and myself, we were with MuleSoft. I've been with MuleSoft for just over 7 years. And I work very closely with our partners on the technical and architectural side. We build the software, we build our platform, and our partners are the lead implementation of what our clients are asking for. And so this is a great working relationship that we have. And what I've done is I've created about 10, maybe 15 minutes worth of content to expose you to this new and fun, no, it's actually not new, but it's a fun and exciting world around integration and our approach. So with that, let me give you a little overview of MuleSoft. If you've never heard of MuleSoft before, kind of an unusual name, but we address a portion of the market that has really struggled, with integration and connectivity. And to summarize, what MuleSoft does is we provide a platform that allows our clients to connect things, applications, data, and devices. It's not a new, approach, but it's an approach that was just absolutely ripe for change, a new approach to connect data, devices, and applications. And as you can imagine, today's day and age, there's no one single system that does everything for an organization. And so integration and connectivity and connecting all of this stuff together is a requirement today. My guess, though, is that if you're a developer, you're already an integration developer. That's my guess. And let me give you some examples. So whether you're if you've coded in Node.js or Java or .NET, PHP, you're an integration developer, I can guarantee it. So I've got a couple of examples here of kind of the day in the life of a traditional approach to integration, which is, hey, I go out, maybe I'm a Node developer, I go out and grab this Axios package, and I can make an API call to get a user, right? And I pass some parameters over, I get a response back, I catch some errors, and then I do things with it. So, from a developer's perspective, I'm making API calls to many different systems all the time. On the flip side of that, sometimes as a developer, you want to expose your application as APIs, and you might use the Express package. And in this particular example, I've loaded up the Express library, and I'm opening my application up to respond when someone makes a GET request. And I respond with a hello world text string. And that's the start of integration, which is I'm making an API call out to something, or I'm opening my app to actually respond to an API call. That's the easy part, relatively. The hard part is not necessarily sending the hello world text string. The hard part is what we're doing when someone makes an API request of us. That's the hard part. Let me give you some examples of what this typically looks like if you're a custom integration developer. So now I need to connect to other systems, maybe in this particular case, SAP, but there's many different systems that traditionally I would need to connect to. So now you have to be a developer that knows Node, that knows the SAP libraries, and it starts getting really complicated really quickly. And this is what an SAP connection actually looks like. And we haven't done anything with SAP, we're just connecting to it. And in general, as a custom developer around integration, you have to be very proficient, not only with the tool you're using, the language you're using, but also the systems that you're connecting to. And that's the challenge that MuleSoft is here to solve. Our approach is different. Our approach doesn't require you to know how to custom code to connect to SAP. And as Vishnu is going to show today, our approach to integration is having pre-built connectors to all of these different systems. So you drag and drop in a user experience where I'm connecting to SAP or Salesforce or Oracle or a mainframe. And then I'm transforming that message from sometimes a really unique, maybe it's a Java object, and I just need to transform it to a JSON string. So MuleSoft really takes that complexity of custom coding and simplifies it, and then does some other things with it as well that our clients are really expecting. The good news is that we've been around for a good long while. We kind of look at the market that we play in as both API management as well as the connectivity of what that API is. So that hello world example, we do all of the work behind that API call of connecting to different things, triggering different logic, and then ultimately responding to that API call. So just to give you a perspective, our clients usually look something like this. They've got hundreds, sometimes thousands of applications, and they're trying to do sometimes some pretty straightforward things, which is like place an order from a website. That simple or seemingly simple request traditionally touches 35 different systems, 35 different integration points, right? It might be, getting customer data, getting order data, shipment data, confirming pickup from Federal Express. I might be, using other systems for credit card processing. So all of those systems need to be connected to. Now you can do it one way, which is custom code it, or you can do it a different way that MuleSoft is offering. The other challenge too is that our clients have this dynamic list of applications that they're bringing on board. And so those new applications need to be connected to and leveraged as well. It's just a challenge because behind the scenes, these tend to feel like what we call point-to-point connections. They're all custom coded, they're all wired together, and our clients don't want to touch anything because they're afraid of breaking everything. So MuleSoft's approach is not only technology, but it's philosophy as well. So our approach is to look at all of these different connection points, create reusable APIs, make those APIs available in a repository, in a toolkit that developers like yourself can go out and say, hey, look, I want to grab this API for customer, this API for order, and assemble them together. And this is what our clients typically look like. They're trying to create maybe a mobile application that's going to leverage APIs from many different sources. And you can either custom develop that, or you can use MuleSoft to actually compose these applications together and create the APIs that might not be available. So a typical MuleSoft project, I've got two different images that I'd like to share with you. A typical MuleSoft project starts looking like this. Our clients bring us in Apicero, we come on in and our clients draw up for us what their existing infrastructure looks like. And this poor guy trying to add one more extension cord to the power grid is typically what our clients are struggling with. They're trying to add one more system. They've got 100 different systems that are wired together and no one wants to touch anything because they're not sure what other apps are dependent on it. And so we'll come on in and say, look, instead of doing things the old way of wiring things together, let's have a new approach, a new philosophy on how to actually connect these applications. And just a little bit of levity here, a typical MuleSoft project also looks like this. If you're at a cricket match and wearing a MuleSoft t-shirt or one of our jackets, you're going to be in high demand. These are very, very, they're great projects. They're long-term projects. They require kind of a unique set of skills, and you'll be in high demand, whether you're an architect or a developer. So at the next cricket match, go ahead and wear, one of your MuleSoft t-shirts. But in reality, a typical MuleSoft project might look like this. It's from the business perspective. We want to roll out a new e-commerce application, but think a little bit about what you're seeing on this screen. There's product inventory, there's loyalty, there's customer data, there's pricing data, there's knowledge management, there's offers and other things that are being presented as this new e-commerce application. Every one of those pieces is an integration point in an application that may be outside of Salesforce or outside of Microsoft, but they tend to have multiple data feeds coming into it. And the question is, how do we get to that data? Well, we use MuleSoft to do it. This is typically what one of those processes looks like, where we're making a call out to an order management system, maybe to Salesforce for customer and loyalty, SAP for inventory, product data. We might be making direct calls out to a bank or maybe Stripe and other things. This is typically part of that really simple process of pressing checkout or pressing purchase. A MuleSoft project, though, tends to look a little bit different than what our clients are used to. So a brand new team will come on board and create a handful of APIs that connect to CRM systems. They might connect to a MySQL for order management, might connect to a product master, but they tend to create these APIs in different layers. And if you're a developer, you might be familiar with the MVC approach, where the model tends to be what we call system APIs. That's where the data lives. So pre-built APIs, pre-built connectors to get to that data. The controller tends to be what we refer to as the process APIs. So those APIs are orchestrating and containing all of the business logic. And then finally, from a view perspective, presenting that hello world response to a mobile API might be different than what a web API looks like. So a typical MuleSoft project might result in 6 or 7 APIs that are delivered as that first set of production deliverables. But get ready, because the typical MuleSoft project, that's where we start, but expect change. These endpoints that we're connecting to, clients will say, hey, look, instead of a custom MySQL database, we're going to do something different. And so we need to swap out those endpoints, but we don't want to break anything else in the infrastructure. So how do we do that? Well, with MuleSoft in the pre-built connections that we have the ability to actually make changes. So we expect changes to happen. The other thing too is that we expect building onto these kind of families of APIs with new experiences. So there might be now partner access to placing orders. Business will come in and say, there might be a new kiosk application. So our projects tend to start small and then grow very quickly. The reusable aspect, we're going to look at this here in a little bit. This is what we call Exchange. This is after the work is done. These APIs are now published and made available. So any developer can go in and say, look, I need to leverage this product API inventory and assemble these together. So we're reusing instead of creating from scratch. Here's a look at one of our clients, Bank of America, that started with the same API-led approach. And the philosophy is let's build APIs for project number one, reuse those APIs, and then let's just focus on, building a handful of APIs for project number two and a handful of new APIs for project number three. But it tends to rapidly accelerate the delivery of these projects. Okay, so this is my last slide before we hand it on over to Vishnu to show you the project. But the approach that we take and the tools and the platform that we use start with the design of the API. What are the resources and methods we're going to expose? So from design, it quickly moves into prototyping. And we've got different, tooling that allows developers to do this very quickly. That from that tooling gets pushed out to Exchange, where developers can provide input of whether or not that API is doing what they expect it to do. From there, it's actually brought into Studio, where we and developers actually do the connections to all of the endpoints. And of course, built-in testing. From there, it moves more into a DevOps cycle, where that work, that API now is pushed out to production, it's deployed. We can see where it's running. We can manage the operation. We can have visibility into who's using it, what policies are being applied, and other analytics and other management components. And then ultimately have this system make it available so other developers can interact with that body of work. So that's a quick overview. And now Vishnu, I'll send it on over to you to show a little bit of the platform.
Yeah, Gunnar, can you share the last slide just once again? I just want to cover one last element. I saw a couple of questions on the chat. We'll probably get to the end, but just on the last slide, I know there were questions like, how is it different from other tools? They are existing products that are in par with MuleSoft. Yes and no. So the approach that Gunnar mentioned, that you can use APIs on top of each other with abstraction levels, sure, you could use any tools for that. Now, but the value you're getting is when you want to take such an approach and actually scale more projects, you need like a one-stop shop for all instead of jumping between platforms. Now, just looking at this diagram, think of MuleSoft as the API lifecycle. So if you think of the word API and add any verb next to it, which is, I want to create an API or design it, or you want to connect to other systems, or you want to manage and secure it, or you want to deploy it either on the cloud, on-premise, in your Kubernetes environment, have like a high availability sort of an architecture, or you want to create an API portal, something like Stripe and Twilio, which are an excellent examples for that, or you want to test your APIs. So any verb that you can associate with the word API right from the get-go, from just creating a very simple contract, which is writing up the get and the post methods, to deploying it something like an enterprise-ready application, you can do all of it with just MuleSoft's Anypoint platform. And so that's the value you're getting when you use the platform. It's easy to use. There is no coding really much required. Most of it is drag and drop, as Gunnar mentioned. And then you design it once, and then you could deploy it anywhere you want, and which Gunnar will get into it in the more later slides. So I hope I was able to answer those questions, but if more questions come, we'll try our best to answer it in the chat. So now I'll quickly share my screen and show what the platform looks like, a very high level overview. And so you should get a good idea on what we were talking about. So if anyone on the call can give me a thumbs up, can you see my screen, or are you seeing my personal emails? Let me know.
Yeah, we can see your screen, Vishnu.
Okay, awesome. So for the first time, when you log into anypoint.mulesoft.com, if you try to recall that H diagram that Gunnar presented, all of it showcases the first time when you log in the platform. So the design center is for designing your APIs. You have the Exchange, which is, think of it as the App Store for MuleSoft. Now, if we want to help customers integrating and connecting to different systems, we also want to ensure that there is actually a means to do that. And this is what we call as connectors. Connectors, in a nutshell, will allow you to connect to different systems with no coding required. So we have around 200 plus connectors, and it's constantly growing. A good example is Apicero helped us build some connectors as well. So when, as an end user, you want to connect to different systems, you can simply add your credentials and you're good to go. So each connector would have the complete API coverage of the whole system. And that's the magic of it. These connectors are not designed for a specific use case. So if you think of Salesforce, it has the whole API coverage of Salesforce. If you think of Twilio, it has a whole coverage of the Twilio's API. And the benefit is you don't have to go back and forth between different API documentations and coming back and doing like an ad hoc way, like how you would use in a Postman. So a very simple example, right? Now think that I need to develop a notification API. Notification API means like today, specifically in pandemic, I think everyone has been shopping a lot on Amazon and other places. And whenever you shop, you see this SMS notification or WhatsApp notification that comes up. Now, essentially, how customers are using that is they have like a notification API that could leverage something like Twilio, and now messages can be routed to either WhatsApp or your Facebook Messenger or your SMS or anywhere else. So if you want to think of your first step is design first approach, you would probably do something where you want to define what your API looks like. And there, if you know already, API designing pretty much has two common standards. Swagger is the most industry accepted standard. RAML is an open source standard that MuleSoft supports, and it is in a standard YAML format. So it is as easy as designing the APIs in this way. So I'll basically say send message. Now this is a post type message. Now I want it to have an application. JSON is supported. Now, as in when I'm typing this, you can already see it's already understanding what I'm writing, and it's already defining that endpoint and the message. And then here you can basically give it an example that that this is what a standard message should look like. Hello world, because everyone loves hello world. Now, if I quickly click this endpoint here, the one that I just designed, you'll see as a developer, if you come and you want to consume this API, you already know how you want to format your message body so that the messages can go. And then in a typical fashion, in a standard API world, you have the post, you have the gets, and then you probably have delete. So as in when I'm typing, you see automatically it's manipulating it and aligning all the verbs for the APIs to that specific endpoint. Now, once you have designed your API to see how it looks, now you want to add the underlying logic. So you simply go and hit publish here. And once it gets published, now you have an API design file. Now, the next thing here is you want to implement this API. So you will traditionally come into this application, which is called Anypoint Studio. Now, looking at the UI, you must be thinking, we have seen this somewhere, or we have worked in somewhat similar IDE environment, which is true. So the Anypoint Studio is an Eclipse, is based on the Eclipse framework. And this is an offline design tool where you can simply drag and drop all these connectors and endpoints and then create APIs on top of it. So what you'll do is you'll come here to the studio, you'll create a new project, and the API that you just designed, you'll simply import it so that the design that you just created gets imported into your design studio. Oops. Hello world. Yeah. So you simply choose the API design that you need, and you hit finish. And what it will do is basically it will open up the project, and it will automatically scaffold your project, which is it will automatically almost give it like a data structure saying that these are the endpoints designed by the API designer, and this is where we need to add logic. Now, if you try to remember what Gunnar was mentioning, is when you create APIs at different levels, it becomes really easy in the future if customers are changing their backend systems. So today I could be using Twilio. Maybe a few years from now, I could be using something like Nexmo or OneEdge. Or say if you're using Salesforce now, you could be using a different CRM solution. Now, when you fix your API design, you can keep changing the underlying systems because your APIs, which have been abstracted at different levels, stay the same. And that makes it like a Lego blocks where you can keep changing the systems and APIs will automatically translate the same information when someone wants to consume them. So once I imported my APIs, you'll see automatically you have both your get and post message. Now I want to add like a messaging service to this so that when you're shopping at Amazon or on different e-commerce website, you want to get an SMS. Now, in a standard way today, how I would do that without MuleSoft is probably go to Postman, open up Twilio's documentation in the background, look up what the endpoints are, copy paste it, understand what the data structure looks like, and then go back and forth. Here, we already have a connector. So if you look here, with connectors, you have the complete API coverage here. You can not only send message, but you can do everything for that specific connector. So I can quickly look for create message and add it here. I'll go and I'll try to add some sort of a message body here, and I'll add it in front of it. And now by just doing this drag and drop, the only thing I need to do here is I need to go in and add my connection information. What is my username? What is my password? And that is all. Now, during design time, you can actually see what is the API request body looks like. So if you look at my screen, or if you can zoom on the screen here, you'll see it has all the information that is required to talk to this connector. So this is what is the metadata that's coming during the design time. At this point, I don't need to go to Twilio's or Salesforce or something like an SAP's documentation to go back and forth. During design time, you can see what these messages are. So if I simply double click here, if I do from to body, it's automatically constructing the message for you. So you can basically give your phone number, you can give, and here, for example, you want to say whose phone number is it. Now, because this is an API, you'll say, send it to my payload.contactinfo. And your message body could be payload.message. Now, every time this API gets triggered in real time, even your from phone number could be your basically your API's developer account gets registered. You simply either hard code that or you can dynamically change this. Every time this API is triggered from a site like Amazon or any other e-commerce website, these will get triggered in real time and you will get notification. And this is what is essentially happening behind the scenes. APIs and different endpoints getting triggered in real time and message notifications or email notifications getting triggered. Now, in this all process, I haven't even typed a single piece of code other than just specifying what attributes that I need. And now say, for example, you want to connect to a system like Salesforce, you have the Salesforce connector, you have the SAP connector, and now you're looking for a different connector, say something like Stevo, which is a product MDM. Or you could do a simple looker for Microsoft-based connectors. So right now it's talking to the Anypoint Exchange, which is the app store, and you have access to all the 200 connectors during your design time. And that's the value basically to have a platform like this, where the requirement to code itself is super low, but you're able to connect to different systems quite easily. And then finally, once you have an API, you want to deploy this. So you would go to, I'll quickly show that here. You'll go into your project, you'll right click, you'll say, go to Anypoint platform, deploy it. And either you can deploy to MuleSoft Cloud or to your own Kubernetes or to like your on-premise instance, totally the choice of the developer. And once you basically deploy it, you go to the browser, and under some runtime manager where you can look at all your deployed apps, you'll see my notification API is deployed. Now, as an end developer, you'll simply take this endpoint and just plug it in your mobile app or your desktop app. Now, as a developer, you don't need to know what APIs am I using, what systems am I using, or what is the data structure. I'll simply use this endpoint / and the phone number, and automatically it will follow the same orchestration that we have designed. And say, for example, you want to deploy this API in a different environment. So you can do it in your EKS or Azure, or even in on the GCP's Kubernetes engine, you can deploy this API. So irrespective of wherever you're deploying it, you design it once and you just do your orchestration once, and you're pretty much good to go. So in a nutshell, that is what I want to quickly show you. There is more to the platform. We can go more in depth in later sessions, but this is what like an end-to-end lifecycle looks like, right? From thinking about an API, designing it, implementing it, deploying it. And you can use the API manager further to secure your APIs and enforce different sort of security policies on top of it. So yep, this was a quick sneak peek in Anypoint platform. And yep, I'll turn it over to Gunnar.
All right. Hey, thank you, Vishnu. I will share my screen. We'll get back here. And you just touched on it. We talked about the tooling, the life cycle of an API. And now there's so much content here that we can cover. I'm going to take just a few minutes and talk very briefly about the different deployment architectures. Some of the questions in the chats were, so what's different about MuleSoft? Yes, many different approaches of being able to connect to things. One of the main drivers is the flexibility of deciding or not have to decide where you actually run this API. Yes, you could run it in your own data center. You can run it in our data center, but it's typically a combination of two. So what we're going to talk about just briefly are the different deployment architectures. What Vishnu showed with the design center and different analytics and exchange is what we refer to as the control plane. And then where that API is actually running, doing the work, the engine of connecting to the different systems is what we refer to as the runtime plane. And you might have 1,000 APIs in the runtime plane that are all feeding what they're doing, where they're running, who's accessing them, what security policies are being applied back up to the control plane. And that's important because with MuleSoft, we're able to give our clients the ability to say, we want to run the control plane, we want MuleSoft to run it, but we want the runtime plane to run a little bit in MuleSoft, a little bit in my own Kubernetes environment, a little bit on GCP, a little bit on Microsoft, a little bit on AWS, and yet have all of everything that's running within my API economy being pushed back up to the control plane. So, as a developer, is it important for you to know about this architecture? It doesn't really change the job that you're being asked to do, but pardon me, a little scratchy throat here this morning. But let's just take a look at how we explain to our clients these different models. On the far left, we've got Cloud Hub, which is MuleSoft's completely hosted environment for both the control plane and the runtime plane. So any API that you create and implement can run completely hosted by MuleSoft. In the middle is a little bit different, where the control plane is hosted by MuleSoft, but the runtime planes can now be distributed across many different platforms. And then finally, on the far right, we have what we call our private cloud edition, where clients can say, we want to run the whole thing in our own data center, or we want to run both control and runtime plane in our own instance of AWS. So with MuleSoft, the answer is yes, you can do all of that. And so as you can imagine, this starts getting a little different level of visibility within an organization around, the architecture and the architectural capabilities of this platform. I've got just 3 slides that really are just here, and we can provide this to you guys afterwards. But Cloud Hub is about running both the control plane and the runtime plane in our own instance of AWS. So the platform itself contains all of the tooling and analytics and monitoring that Vishnu showed. The runtime plane are where your APIs, we call them Mule apps. These are all running in their isolated worker clouds where they can scale up and scale out automatically. Cloud Hub provides that ability. The other approach is what we call runtime fabric. And this is a fancy word for leveraging the control plane, again, by MuleSoft, but leveraging Kubernetes and Docker containers in a microservice-based environment. So all of your APIs are now running under the blanket of Kubernetes within Docker images. And then finally, service mesh. What do we do for these APIs that are created and managed by MuleSoft, but the hundreds and sometimes thousands of APIs that are created by other technologies? And so we call this service mesh, where those other technologies can leverage a Mule adapter and report back to the control plane. Okay, just to finish up here, sorry for my scratchy throat so early. We've got a sign-up challenge, and what I'm going to do is maybe hand it on over just for a quick second to the Apicero folks, and I'll get the URLs ready.
Sure, Gunnar. So Savannah, you want to just talk about this slide?
Yeah, so we do have a really awesome sign-up challenge that Gunnar and Vishnu have put together with us. It'll give you a little bit of a hands-on demo to the Anypoint platform. We will have 3 winners, which we'll announce in a couple of days. We'll be giving away some awesome MuleSoft Apicero swag, and then also 3 $25 US or 1,800 INR gift cards. So Gunnar has some links he'll be putting into the chat. And then I also think he has a couple slides for instructions to kind of show you exactly what we're looking for you to do. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Gunnar.
All right, thanks for that impromptu ability for me to take a sip of water. But I also posted a couple of links here. And so what we're going to ask you to do is to be an integration developer, to interact with MuleSoft APIs that we've created. And there's going to be 2 ways to do this. One is that you can use our developer portal, and I've got a link to that. That was the first URL. So interacting with our developer portal, or you can just go native and use Postman. I've exposed both a GET request as well as a POST request to 2 different APIs. So the first approach is to use our developer portal, and I'll show you what that looks like. Once you get there, you'll see 2 APIs. One is a random number generator API, and the other is the enter drawing. And so whether you use our developer portal or Postman, effectively what you're going to be doing is, number 1, generating a unique ID. And this is the developer portal version of it. And you can see the endpoint that we're calling. It's this random numberizer .cloudhub.io. So when you go into the developer portal, you got to do a couple of things. 1, get into the GET request right over here. And the second one is to make sure that you select the live server. You can either select the mocking service or the live server. Select the live one because that'll generate really a unique ID for you. So once you do that, press the send and you'll get a unique identifier down here. And that's step 1. And again, you can do that either from this portal, you can do it from Postman. Step number 2 is to take that unique ID along with some other content and interact with a different API. This is called the enter drawing API. And again, get into the post request, select the live server, which is this enter drawing API, input your unique ID as a query parameter, and you can see it's building the URL here with the query parameters that you would expect. But here's the important piece. In order to actually submit this, you need the query parameter, but you also need a JSON formatted body that you're going to submit as part of this entrance. And if you I added a couple of fields up here. If you liked this webcast, on a scale of 1 to 10, give us what you like. If you hated it, give us a 1. If you loved it, give us a 10. But here's the important part. Enter your first name, last name, and email address, and just simply press send. And so what that's going to do, it's going to trigger just a database call. We're going to store the information in a database. We've got a random number generator that will pick the 3 people. We'll keep this up and running for the next 24 hours. Just only submit once, because you don't want to front load the database and your drawing chances, but do that. But the main message here is this portal is automatically generated for every API. This is what kind of sets MuleSoft apart. Vishnu showed how you can actually create a resource and expose the different methods, and it generates portals like this. I didn't have to do anything in Drupal. I didn't have to custom code anything. It just generates it based on the RAML or Swagger that was used to define this API. And so from there, I'll hand it back over to the Apicero team.
Thank you, Gunnar. I think you can stop sharing, Gunnar. I think,
Yep.
Thanks again, Gunnar and Vishnu. Like I mentioned in the beginning, Gunnar and Vishnu are from MuleSoft, one of the longer tenured muleys, both from the technical side of things. So Gunnar is on the solution engineering side. Vishnu helps the business development, interoperability, and also more recently on the partner side. So yes, we have 7 minutes left. So what we discussed at the beginning, in the first 45 minutes or so, is about the technology, just to give you like a primer and a brief exposure about the technology. Now, I think since the audience, we have a lot of developer community, and some of you might be thinking, or should be thinking about a career in MuleSoft. So we're going to spend the last 6 minutes or so discussing how we can help. First of all, why you should consider a career in MuleSoft, and how we can help, right? So first up, right, so why you should be considering MuleSoft as a career option. So as most of you are aware, the demand for MuleSoft developers is really, really high. That speaks to the great technology, the great adoption it has seen across the board. But the supply of MuleSoft the demand is always outgrowing the supply. So if you are a developer thinking about what your next career move would be, right? It's 2 things. You want interesting work, you want good opportunity, right, to grow as like a professional, right? So MuleSoft checks both the boxes, right? So as a technology, Gunnar and Vishnu explained, right? It's right, it's one of the best out there in the market now. And when you talk about, like as a developer, one of the questions we get as a developer is, hey, this is all drag and drop. There is no coding involved here, right? It's far from true, guys. Yes, it is a very intuitive platform. We take some of the some of the mundane coding work out, but there's a lot of intellectual work that as a developer you have to think about. What is the most efficient way to kind of build these integrations? Where are you going to deploy? What is the VPN, VPC? How's the networking going to work, right? How can you solve the business problems, right? You're not thinking about technology as a standalone. How can I solve the business problems, how can I make the integrations more reusable, more efficient. There's so many details that go into building these integrations. So that is the reason why you only have you have a lot of MuleSoft developers, but you have very few who are really, really good, because there is so much that goes into being a very good developer, and Apicero can help you with your journey on MuleSoft. And before I turn it over to Sapna, I'll leave you with one thought, guys. Even through the we recruit a lot. Most of you would have gotten an email from us, bugging you to join Apicero, right? So we, even during the pandemic, right, when many people were losing their jobs, there was hardly any MuleSoft developers on the market, right? The demand did not dip even for one day, even during the peak of pandemic. The demand for MuleSoft developers was very, very high. Yeah. So before I turn it over to Sapna, it's a great technology, great career option, very intellectually challenging work, very intuitive platform, and Apicero can really help accelerate your. We hire a lot of people. Almost all of the hires we do are from non-MuleSoft background, getting good developers into the company and quickly accelerating their path to be the MuleSoft experts. So if you are from a non-MuleSoft background thinking about a career in MuleSoft, there's no better avenue than Apicero. Sapna, you have 1 minute to cover, because we need 2 minutes to for the next step. So over to you, Sapna. You're on mute, Sapna.
Thank you, Vijay. Okay, sure. So very quickly, to kind of take you through what we offer and how we are very different from what possibly is being offered across the industry as well, is that we spend about a good 4 to 5 weeks initially, and going up to 6 weeks even initially, to actually set your foundation and give you a base. So the first 2 weeks, if you will, we take you through an Anypoint platform development fundamentals course, where the basic concepts of API-led connectivity approach, how to build an application network are touched upon, along with its importance in today's ever-changing world of information technology. This course, of course, covers concepts, walkthroughs, hands-on building, all of that. So there's a lot of work that goes in. And at the end of this course, you would be able to get yourself certified for the MuleSoft Certified Developer Level 1 certification. And we take you through this period where there is, over this, the 4 to 5 weeks, where you will complete your certification as well. After you complete this course, which is run over 10 days, we then take you through Bare Essentials. Bare Essentials is a 3 to 5 day program where we again touch upon concepts which you would have covered in the course, and we take you additionally to additional concepts as well and give you a good overview. So securing APIs, talking about OAuth, CI/CD, many different areas. So we take you through that. Once you've got your foundation set, then we take you through what we call the Doctor's Developer Track. And this is a program which is again run over 7 to 10 days. And there we do a deep dive. We do a deep dive again into these concepts where you get a lot more exposure to hands-on learning. You're doing learning circles, there are case studies, demos, and a lot of that happens. The methodology, of course, in terms of all of this is that we're going through learning circles, there are impromptu quizzes. We keep it engaging and active. You also get assignments. We have our, SMEs who are actually there to support you. So basically the subject matter experts from within Apicero will be there, would walk you through what happens and take you through the entire training process. So all in all, in terms of the feedback that we received, we've received very, very good feedback. So here there are 2 of our recent graduates, if you will, Gagandeep Singh and Nitin, where Gagan says that it's really helped, our training process has really helped build his confidence in working with Mule and boosted his personal morale. So he's really ready for what he needs to do. And then, of course, we have Nitin, who said he used to doubt whether or not he would be able to do well when he was assigned to a Mule project. But the training provided at Apicero is really top class, and now he's very confident. So we've received a lot of good feedback. in terms of the training that we offer. And Vijay, if I've covered my 1 minute, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Sapna. Sapna heads our MuleSoft training department. She's put together a very robust program to get you quickly started. And we have the client base, diverse client base, where we have the shadow projects to really give you the confidence before we put you on the floor live. So we're just 1 minute past the time, so I'll just use 1 minute to wrap up. How to Mule series is aimed at really exposing you to technology, getting excited, and showing you a path on how you could pursue a career with MuleSoft. We'll just skip in the interest of time. Let's skip to the next slide. So we have some more. We have some more sessions coming up. We're going to be talking about how web methods developers can transition successfully to a career in MuleSoft. That session is coming up June 24th, and we will do some some marketing around this to make sure that we drive up the registration. Anything else we want to cover, guys? We are 1 minute over time.
I think there are a couple of questions, sorry, Vijay, on how can people register for the training. So if you can just probably talk about that.
Yeah, so go back one slide. So to register for the training, we have a free half-day API workshop that we will run. So Varsha, how can people register for this workshop?
Okay, so after this webinar, everyone who has registered for this webinar will receive an invitation for How to Mule breakout series. We will have a tech-specific session for each technology. Like Vijay mentioned, the first one upcoming will be web methods to MuleSoft. Similarly, we'll have for each technology, TIPCO, SnapLogic, etc. So you need to accept the invitation to attend the webinar. That is the first tech-specific session. After you attend it, you will receive a free half-day API workshop invitation that will be led by Epicero. You need to successfully attend the API workshop, and upon successfully attending it, you will receive a certification exam voucher, which you can redeem and complete your online free self-paced Anypoint platform fundamentals course and go for the certification. So you need to follow these 3 steps in order to complete your certification. First, accept the invite to the tech-specific session. Second, attend our free API workshop. And lastly, complete your training and redeem the voucher to sit for the examination.
Yeah. Yes, if anyone is interested, right, just drop us an email and we will guide you through. We have other instructor-led trainings that we could make available for you. You could reach out to Varsha or Savannah, or you could directly email me. My email is vijay@apicero.com. Yeah. So you can just email me directly. I'll put my email in the chat. If anyone is interested in a career in MuleSoft, please reach out to Varsha, Savannah, or myself. Yeah, so drop me a note saying that I want to pursue a career in MuleSoft, and we will guide you through the process. Yeah. Thank you all for joining. I know we are 4 minutes over. I really want to thank Gunnar and Vishnu for waking up really early, putting in a lot of effort into preparing for this webinar, and a really great presentation. Thank you all. I see a great participation today. We see close to 200 participants. So a great participation from across the globe. Thank you for spending 1 hour of your time with us. I truly hope this was an hour well spent. And thank you to Gunnar, Vishnu, and Sapna. And a huge thanks to Savannah and Varsha for putting this together. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day, great morning, or great night. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.